No secret, I'm a boxing fan, and because of that, Doug Fischer, one of my favorites. He works with Ring TV. You can find him there. You can find him on Facebook. Dougie's massive mailbags on Monday and sometimes Friday are a great way to start and end your week. Doug joined me on the Sports Buffet podcast to review Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. against Sergio Martinez, as well as Canelo Alvarez's last fight, and more. It's Doug Fischer talking some boxing on the Sports Buffet podcast. Always love talking to Doug Fischer with the Ring TV. Does an excellent job. Dougie's massive mailbag. That's what I live for when I get up in the mornings. I believe, what is it, Doug? Monday and Fridays, is that correct?
Monday and Friday, yeah.
What a great way to
book. Monday. Sometimes I'll take a Friday off, every now and then. Not often, but every now and then. If it's not a huge weekend, I'll take a Friday off. But for the most part, yeah, the start of the week and the end of the week.
What a great way to bookend the week.
Yeah.
I mean, how can you get any better? Now, I'll be honest with you. The Martinez-Chavez fight last Saturday night in Las Vegas, I'm not going to say it was putting me to sleep, but it certainly did not have, a lot of. It was pretty one-sided for the first 11 rounds. But I'll tell you, that 12th round almost became one of Bob Allis's most exciting boxing moments of recent memory, because that would have been something if Chavez had knocked him out.
And you were watching the fight live, I take it.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So yeah, I watched because I already knew what was going to happen when I watched the fight, and that 12th round was still scintillating. It still had me out of my seat. It still had my heart pumping. It was, I knew Martinez made it, and it was still like, whoa. So I can imagine, I can only imagine what that was like watching it live and watching it in the Thomas and Mack Center if you are a Chavez fan or a hardcore Mexican fan. And you've all but given up hope on your guy, upholding the Chavez legacy, and suddenly it looks like the son is going to pull what the father did all those years ago, way back in 1990 against Melty Taylor. It looked like it could actually happen, because I got to tell you, that's the first time I've really seen Sergio Martinez hurt since Martinez was stopped by Antonio Margarito back in 2000. So, that was, it was a close call for Sergio Martinez. He needs to thank his lucky stars that championship bouts now are just 12 rounds and not 15 rounds.
Well, and you'd
think it would be a wake-up call for Chavez, because honestly, what I was thinking, I expected him to get outclassed for the entire fight, but I thought he would show the older, naturally smaller man less respect during the early to middle rounds than he did. To me, he wasn't cutting the ring off the way he should, the way a Chavez should, and he was not committing. He wasn't committing to his pressure and to his offense the way I thought a guy who was at least 20 pounds over the middleweight limit should have. And who knows, had he actually done that, had he really accepted the pain that he was going to take, that was going to happen if he tried to crowd Martinez early, but maybe if he would have tried to dictate the pace, tried to set the tempo on, 37-year-old champion, maybe that moment would have happened in the 10th or 11th round instead of the second half of the final round. Who knows?
And, at one point, I'll be honest with you, I thought Tony Weeks might step in. I don't think it would have been a good stoppage, but it wouldn't have been the worst either, because Martinez, he was almost on Dream Street there for a while.
Yeah, and he was taking some damage around the eyes, particularly. You never like to see a fighter with that kind of bruising and swelling around his eyes. You never know if they're, the eye socket is cracked or anything like that, or if they're, all this damage is not just facial tissue, but optic nerves and that kind of thing. You don't want somebody to lose their eyesight for the rest of their life, or partial eyesight, just because of pride during one prize fight.
Right. Memo Lawrence Cole with Pacquiao and Margarito.
Right, exactly. That fight should have stopped. Because one of Margarito's eyes was completely shut, and he wasn't able to defend himself. And just the swelling of it lets you know that it was more than just a shiner. It was more than just a black eye. Something was busted in this guy's head, Margarito may never admit it, but I'm sure he's mostly blind in that eye now, and that's kind of barbaric. You don't want that. Chavez's eyes were not that badly swollen, but I could see that. I could see somebody making a case for a mercy stopping. Maybe in the ninth round, once it was obvious that he's not gonna win on points. Not even in Las Vegas. Not even being Chavez and fighting on Mexican Independence Day. You knew he wasn't going to win the final on points. So I'm glad that it made it into the final round, because that final minute, the final minute and a half or so of that final round just kind of made it all worthwhile. That round was good enough where people are saying, I anticipate a rematch, and I would pay money to see a rematch as one-sided as the first 11 rounds were. That tells you something. That's how dramatic that round was.
Are you a gambler, Doug?
I am not a gambler, thank God.
if you,
I would lose so much money. I would lose so much money.
If you were, would you bet on the rematch though? Because what does the other guy have to fight? Who does the other guy have to fight even?
Exactly. There's, I think Lou DiBella was quoted by somebody in the media. He said, when you catch lightning in the bottle, you got to do something with it. And that's what they did with that final round. And, if Jerry Jones wants to host it at Cowboy Stadium in Arlington, Texas, if they can do 30, 40, 50,000, they're talking like 80, 90,000. I don't know if they do that much. Let's say they put together just a stellar undercard and they really promote the hell out of it. I don't think they can do it, but maybe they can do 45,000 or something like that. That always looks good for the sport. That helps create interest in the sport, and that helps make fans. But I would say, I think this pay-per-view is going to do around 500,000, 600,000 buys, which is pretty good for a pay-per-view that doesn't involve Manny Pacquiao.
I was gonna say, when you have Martinez and Chavez headlining the pay-per-view, with all due respect, I'll take 500, 600,000 buys.
That's good. No, the promotion made money.
Yep.
They did a record gate. They sold out the Thomas and Mack Center. They did a little bit over $3 million. That's very good. That's a very good gate. It was good business. They did well, and Bob Arum is nothing if not a businessman. Lou DiBella is open to it, and quite frankly, I think it's his only choice. He can't go up to 158 and fight somebody like Andre Ward, because if that 12th round taught him anything, is that he's a small middleweight and he's getting old. That's two things that 12th round should have taught him. Imagine being in there with somebody with comparable skill and technique and athleticism, who also has youth and that tremendous size on his side. That's Andre Ward. That's a fight you can't win, and that's potentially a beatdown, one-sidedly. Of course, he could go down to junior middleweight, but I don't think Mayweather's going to take the bait. And you never know what Mayweather's going to do, and that's something that DiBella has been chasing for a few years now. Pacquiao wasn't going to bite. I don't think Mayweather's going to bite. So why not just accept the fact that you have the middleweight champion of the world, somebody who has finally been involved with like an HBO 24/7 and a big pay-per-view promotion, and maybe is now better known than he was in previous years, and try to milk it for what you can. And if you're going to milk that 12th round and do a rematch. From the emails that I've received, most people are in favor of it. So if the fans want it, you got to do it.
Well, I don't think that Mayweather takes the Martinez fight unless he knows something that we all don't. And what I mean by that is if he sees just an easy way, or a way that he just doesn't think he can get his head knocked off, and it rolls around on the ring.
I don't see an easy fight for Floyd.
I don't either. Not now.
Southpaw, somebody who's naturally bigger, somebody with quick hands, a stick and move type fighter, and somebody with a jab. All that. He's a southpaw. He's got a jab. He can punch. Particularly for a junior middleweight, he's used to whacking out middleweights. He steps down to junior middleweight unless that somehow drains him. And he says that he should be fighting at junior middleweight. I think his power is going to be better than ever. He's got quick hands. He puts combinations together, and he's not just a plodding, come forward guy. That's the kind of style that Mayweather is familiar with, that he's comfortable with. He's not comfortable in there with another boxer. Somebody's going to be in and out and moving around on him, and he's got quick hands, and he's big. That's crazy. He's not going to do it. Even though the dude is older than him, the guy's got obvious wear and tear. I don't see Mayweather taking that bait. I just don't see it. If he does, man, hats off, man. I might have to reevaluate my whole stance on Mayweather if he were to fight Sergio Martinez at 154 or even 160. 160, I got to really take my hat off to him. Maybe he is a great fighter. That's showing great character.
Right.
To actually fight the middleweight champ at middleweight, right? I think so.
I would agree with you wholeheartedly. When Miguel Cotto's 0 went to 1 in the loss column, I think it kind of, I don't want to say diminished him or anything, but, guys change when they go from undefeated to a beaten fighter. How does this change Julio Cesar Chavez Jr.?
Well, hopefully it's a wake-up call. Hopefully he realizes that there was an opportunity, a small window for him to beat this guy and to be the real undisputed champion at middleweight, and to have upheld his family name and honor the way he probably never had previously dreamed. And he blew it, and I think part of the reason is he wasn't in the absolute best shape and focus and frame of mind, and the fact that he recently tested positive for marijuana lets you know that he wasn't being a professional. Professional, you can't party while you're in camp for the biggest fight of your life. So hopefully it's a wake-up call. It lets him know that, okay, maybe if I really do apply myself and I really act like a professional fighter, not just a guy with the last name Chavez, but like any other professional who wants to be world-class and wants to call himself a champion, if I really live that prize fighter lifestyle, maybe I can surpass even what people think is my potential. Maybe I can go beyond what people believe is my ceiling or my upper limit. That's the hope. But it could be the opposite effect. It could be like, oh well, what the heck?
Right.
Well, I almost got, I was almost unbeaten in 50 professional fights. I'm not, but whatever. The guy who beat me was really good, and I'm not going to be too hard on myself. I made good money. It was my name that was driving this promotion. I'm young. I'm going to have a good time.
Right. Well,
pass this joint and pass that Tecate. I don't know. You never know. He can go either way. He can go either way, really.
I agree with everything you said, but I'll be honest with you. I don't think Chavez loses as much, fame, notoriety, however you want to put it, because I think the 12th, if he doesn't have that 12th round, maybe he does, but I think that 12th round gives him some saving face.
It does. It does. And the feedback, what I've read in social media, on Twitter, in Facebook postings, and direct emails to me for the mailbag, echoes the statement that you just made, that he somehow saved some face, and people are still willing to give him a second chance because, hey, he almost had the champ. He almost had it.
Canelo Alvarez the same night, and I'll be honest, Doug, I'm kind of behind in my boxing watching. I've seen a little bit of the fight, and some of those shots that he hit Josesito Lopez with were just brutal body shots.
Especially body shots.
Yeah,
the left hook to the body, man. Canelo's got that punch down.
Is this kid ready for Mayweather?
No, he's not ready for Mayweather, but I tell you what, he's ready for other top dogs. He's ready to fight the best junior middleweights out there. I think he should stay busy. I would love to see him come back and fight a third time this year, fight in December, if they can find a date for him. Richard Safer says they don't look for dates. When Canelo Alvarez wants to fight, then that's a date and that's an event. If he wants to fight on a Wednesday, they're going to do it. They don't care if somebody else is fighting. They say he's a bona fide star, and they'll make it happen. So I'm hoping, I would like to see Canelo fight before this year is out. If not, then, maybe in January or February of next year, before he has like a really huge fight, like a Cinco de Mayo fight, obviously before next Mexican Independence Day weekend. But I think he's ready for, the winner of Cotto Trout, Miguel Cotto, Austin Trout. I think he's definitely ready for the IBF belt holder, Cornelius Bundridge, who might fight Andre Berto. The winner of that fight is an attractive opponent for Alvarez. This kid who fought last night in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, a kid from Philadelphia, Gabriel Rosado. Diego Lozano. I think he would be a decent opponent for Canelo. I think maybe Lozano could use one or two more fights. I think Lozano is a really attractive opponent if he can win a title. And the fight that he had last night against Charles Whitaker, that gave him a mandatory shot at Bundridge's IBF title. So if Lozano were to fight Bundridge and beat Bundridge and become a title holder, that's a perfect story right there, because at one time the kid was kind of like a journeyman or an opponent type, and he's won his last 7 bouts, and he's looking better in each outing, and he's earned his shot at the IBF title. And if he were to win that title, he's young. I think he's just 26 years old. He's of Puerto Rican descent. He's an East Coast guy from Philadelphia, so there's certain markets that he hits that would make for a very attractive pay-per-view B-side, perhaps, for Canelo Alvarez. So I think there's a lot of opponents out there for Alvarez. James Kirkland is still around. Alfredo Angulo is free from his immigration woes, his legal troubles, and Golden Boy Promotions is bringing him back on November 10th. I think he's fighting on the undercard of the Abner Maris and Selmo Moreno card at Staples Center in Los Angeles. So 1 or 2 fights back for Angulo, and he's an attractive opponent. So there's no shortage of opponents for Canelo, and I think he's ready to fight real, tough, strong, prime junior middleweight contenders. That's what I think.
One name you didn't mention.
Mayweather, though. I think Mayweather beats him. If they fight, whatever, in December, if they were to fight, if Canelo were to fight Mayweather next year, I would pick Mayweather. Now, beyond 2013, Father Time really becomes a factor with Mayweather, even if he still seems like he's got it, if he still seems motivated and he still wants to be in this game.
Well,
I think beyond 2013, Alvarez, and any young, hungry fighter, really,
right.
Particularly a natural junior middleweight, is strong, and with the offensive technique that Alvarez has, becomes a threat for Mayweather, because he's not getting any younger.
Let me throw out.
He only takes once a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me throw out a 2-part question on that topic real quick. I'm not Mexican, but I do know 2 big days are Cinco de Mayo and Mexican Independence Day, which falls in September. If Canelo were to fight Mayweather on either one of those days next year, do you think that's something Golden Boy would want to see, or do they want to protect Canelo a little bit? And then number 2 part of the question is, one name you didn't mention that I know the weight difference is a little bit, but what about our boy from HBO a few weeks ago, G Squared, Golovkin, or
oh my goodness! Well, Golovkin is still really unknown. He just fought for the first time in the U.S. in his last fight, and that was at Boxing After Dark. That was an HBO Boxing After Dark. That was his first time fighting in the United States. His first time fighting on U.S. television. It did not do tremendous ratings. It was something. It was a broadcast that hardcore fight fans were watching, and they instantly fell in love with Golovkin. I've known about Golovkin for a few years now. I've had the privilege and honor of watching the guy train up in Big Bear. I've seen him spar, and actually the first sparring session I ever saw of Golovkin, he was sparring Canelo. This was like last April, last May, and they had the big gloves on, and Golovkin was clearly holding back on Canelo, and he still locked the kid. He still hurt the kid. I don't remember if it was a straight right or if it was a compact hook, but it was towards the end of the second round of sparring, and Alvarez lost his legs for a minute, and it was the last minute of that round, and Alvarez didn't go back to his corner. He kind of started doing like some calisthenics in the ring, and put one of his legs up, on like the top rope, and kind of like was stretching like a ballet dancer, and doing that, kind of like trying to put life back into his legs.
Right.
But that was with big gloves and with headgear, and in a situation, Abel Sanchez, the guy who trains Golovkin, doesn't like his guys to go all out in sparring. He wants gym work. He doesn't want gym wars. And they were particularly being easy on Canelo because he's a smaller guy. They were just, they wanted to spar with Canelo for Canelo's speed because they were getting ready for a fight against Kasim Uma, who was a naturally smaller guy, but a guy with some quick hands. So I think Alvarez's camp, they sparred many rounds with him. I'm guessing that it happened more than once with Golovkin. so they know that he is a really dangerous guy. And right now he's unknown.
Right. I'll take that as a big fat
unknown
no
in
then.
the U.S. Yeah.
I'll take that as a big fat no based on all the.
No, they know. And yeah, that was a long-winded no, but I'm just, I'm trying to say, on one hand, they know who Golovkin is, but on the other hand, they also know that most people don't know who Golovkin is, and they just have so many opportunities to fight guys who bring their own fans to the table.
Lose to a big name as opposed to a small name. Lose to a big name as opposed to a small name is what I would say.
There you go. If you're going to lose to Mayweather. And which answers your question, if a fight between Mayweather and Alvarez could be made next May and next September, I think, yes, Golden Boy would pull the trigger on it, although I think they would probably be criticized, and I would be one of the people who would criticize them for going after Mayweather too soon. I still think it's too soon for Alvarez to go after Mayweather, because really, if you look at Alvarez's resume, he has yet to fight a junior middleweight contender who was in his prime.
Right.
He fought like junior middleweights who are noteworthy, who have names like Shane Mosley, you know what I mean? But Mosley wasn't a ranked junior middleweight at the time, and he certainly wasn't in his prime. So he still hasn't fought that guy like an Angulo or a James Kirkland or a Cornelius Bundridge or an Erislandy Lara or a Vanis Martirosyan, who is young, maybe undefeated or just, one or two losses and ranked in everybody's 154-pound rankings. He has yet to beat a guy like that. So I think he needs to do that before he gets up and has a bona fide super fight. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, I and by the way, I love long-winded no answers. They don't bother me one bit.
Oh, I have lots of, I'm the king of that.
Hey, if you don't have a problem going long-winded, Doug, I don't have a problem sitting here holding the phone for it whatsoever. But
I appreciate that.
I think, you talk about James Kirkland. Does Kirkland still have to lower the price tag a little bit? And I think Kirkland counts some stars against Canelo. I don't think he wins that.
Yeah, no, I would favor Canelo. I would absolutely favor Canelo. I would actually say, Canelo, there's a lot of criticism on him out there directed towards him, and I think some of it is merited. I think you could criticize his choice of his last opponent. Although I don't think you can criticize him too harshly, because it's not like that was their first choice. It wasn't Team Alvarez's first choice to fight Josesito Lopez, and it wasn't Golden Boy Promotions' first choice. I think Lopez was maybe the fourth or fifth choice. They wanted Paul Williams. They wanted Kirkland. They wanted Victor Ortiz. It just didn't work. It just didn't work out.
Well, it would have worked out if Victor Ortiz could have taken care of Josesito.
Exactly, and that's not Canelo's fault.
Right. Exactly.
And I actually thought Josesito would do better than he did. I thought he would pose a stiffer challenge, but I mean, it was obvious that that's just not his weight class, And but it's also obvious to me that Alvarez is a hell of a fighter. I think he's a little bit underrated in some ways because he's so popular. People want to sort of judge him against other elite fighters,
right?
And clearly he's not in Mayweather or Manny Pacquiao's class. That's clear. He's not in Sergio Martinez's class. But he's one of the best 22-year-old fighters out there, and he's getting better. And he seems to want to learn. He's not a one-trick pony, and he's not a one-dimensional fighter. He's not like a marvelous super athlete. He doesn't have super quick hands. He doesn't have one-punch knockout power. He's not a defensive wizard. He's not the most fluid fighter in there. But his offense is pretty fluid, and he's got beautiful combinations, and there's a lot of variation in his offense, and he doesn't want to get hit. He's not inviting punishment, and all of that speaks well to where he is right now and where he could go, I think. And I would favor him against Kirkland. I would favor him over Alfredo Angulo if they fought, say, within the next 6 to 8 months,
Right.
Maybe if Angulo gets like 3 or 4, comeback fights under his belt, and, the rumor is Angulo's going to hook up with Virgil Hunter. I don't know if that's true or not, it's just a rumor, but if that does happen, I know Virgil Hunter is a smart trainer and has a lot to teach, and is a technical trainer, and maybe, 4 or 5 bouts under Virgil Hunter, Angulo becomes the kind of fighter who would Alvarez. But right now, if they were to fight in December or something like that, I would choose Canelo over El Perro. I would favor Alvarez. So I think he's a good fighter.
Well,
I would favor him over Buntridge too.
Right. While we're matchmaking, I wouldn't mind seeing Angulo Kirkland too.
That's a hell of a fight. I think that's a big fight. That's a fight they could take to Texas. And I think they could do pretty well.
And
they could do well in Texas, but I think it would do well in Southern California or Vegas, where there's probably more money for it.
They would do well in my backyard, Doug. I'd be all over that. So
yeah. Well, Canelo, you know what? Canelo brings fans wherever he goes. I think he's starting to prove.
Right.
He brings the fans out. I mean, the fact that they had more than 14,000 in the MGM Grand Garden Arena on the same night that Chavez was fighting, and it sold out the Thomas and Mack Center, I think that says a lot. And I think the ratings that he did on Showtime says a lot. I think the fact that it was that fight, that card was simulcast on Telefutura, and that it was shown live in Televisa in Mexico. I think that speaks to the popularity of Alvarez.
Two final topics, and then we'll do it again soon. But first final topic. What is Ricky Hatton doing?
Either he's really bored, or he's realizing that if he's going to be in the promotional business, and he needs to inject some revenue into his company and create a platform for some of his young fighters to come up underneath him. Maybe it's in the best interest, not in his own best interest health-wise, in the best interest of Hatton Promotions to make a comeback and to have a few fights and to see what he can do, to see how far he could take a comeback. Because it's, he's a promoter now. And when popular boxers are promoters, their promotional companies thrive when they are still fighting and they are headlining the big cards. And he is as big as a star can get in the UK, particularly in his home city of Manchester, which is one of the great sports cities in the world. He doesn't even have an opponent. He just announced that he was going to have a comeback, I believe November 10th, and I think 14,000 tickets were automatically sold or something crazy like that. I mean, definitely more than 10,000. I mean, he doesn't even need to have an opponent, and he can sell out an arena. So the guy, obviously the guy is he's still a draw. He's still an attraction. People still love their Ricky over there in Britain, particularly in Manchester.
There's only one Ricky Hatton.
Yeah, and I tell you what, if he can get into decent shape and get one or two comeback fights against mid-level guys, there's a big fight out there for him. I mean, and particularly if he's just fighting at welterweight. There's a couple of guys who have welterweight titles who aren't natural welterweights. They're naturally smaller fighters. One of them he's already beat, Paul Malignaggi.
Right.
That's a good rematch, whether it's in the UK or if it's in New York City. That's a huge fight in New York City or in the UK. And Malignaggi is promoted by Golden Boy Promotions, which has a very close relationship with Ricky Hatton and Hatton Promotions. And the other guy is an undefeated guy who's, a pound-for-pound rated dude, Timothy Bradley. And if you're Ricky Hatton and you're looking at your legacy and you're thinking, I could have been better, how is there some way I can maybe get that one win that will make me a bona fide first ballot Hall of Famer? Because I've got some great names on my resume, of course, but the guys who are Hall of Famers that I've defeated or old, like Kostya Tszyu, or a borderline guy like Jose Luis Castillo, and then the guys who beat me who are definite first ballot Hall of Famers, Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao. Man, they really beat me bad, and that hurt my fighter's pride. How can I salvage that? How can I get it back? Well, maybe you fight a Timothy Bradley, and if you do well against Timothy Bradley, people kind of look at your legacy a little bit different. If you can make a comeback and win a couple fights and give Bradley hell in a competitive loss, or if you beat Timothy Bradley, you become the first guy to beat Bradley, it's like, wow, you can lord that. That almost sort of erases your loss to Manny Pacquiao, at least. And it just kind of, that would be a hell of a way to cap your career. And fighters are dreamers. They're always looking for that next big win.
Right.
And what a great story that would be.
No Amir Khan, though, right?
No, I think Amir Khan is just a bad style matchup for Hatton. And maybe if Hatton was more of a one-punch guy, I could see that fight happening, but I don't. No, I don't. That would be, I didn't even think about that one. I was just thinking, like, as far as the end, the target for Hatton in this comeback, I was thinking Paul Malignaggi or Timothy Bradley. I wasn't even thinking about Amir Khan because, he's sort of in the middle of his own comeback and
right.
putting together a new team, and, he's supposedly going with Virgil Hunter as well. So he's got, I don't know. I hadn't thought about that, but you know what? That makes all the sense in the world, Bob. I mean, that's as far as a monster fight in the UK. That's a stadium fight, definitely. I know who the crowd favorite would be. It would be Ricky Hatton.
I like it when that makes sense, Doug. Let's close with the final topic, which normally I would say we've probably done about 20 interviews at least over this time, and it always pops up as a subject. Mayweather-Pacquiao. I hear rumors, that Floyd, 50 Cent is talking to Manny. I don't know if he wants to sign Manny to a recording contract or not. I would hope not, but
I hope not.
Is this closer, I should say?
I think, I'll tell you what. It's closer than it's ever been since perhaps the start of 2010. I would say that. It seems more of a reality. Mayweather might be looking to retire soon. Supposedly he's, got his finances in order. Manny Pacquiao is definitely looking towards retirement. You can kind of tell his last couple of fights, he just hasn't had that fire. He says he's going to have this fire for the Marquez fourth bout with Marquez. Maybe he will, maybe he won't, but I don't think fans, casual fans, and even a lot of hardcore fans who aren't specifically Pacquiao and Marquez fans, they don't have the same passion for Pacquiao and Marquez for, and I think at least the people around him have to know that they've run out of options beyond Mayweather, and the fight needs to happen before either of these two future Hall of Famers retire. So I think it's possible. If you would have asked me this, and like you said, you've asked me like 20 times, I've been the cynic and said, no, it's not going to happen, and let's never talk about it after 2012. Well, I'll tell you what, it's close enough to where, yeah, we can talk about it, and maybe we can, even talk about it at the start of 2013. But
better than a 50% chance?
I'm still going to say, yeah, I think it's a little bit better than a 50-50.
Wow.
But I still say seeing is believing. Let's see what happens with Pacquiao's next fight. It's not a gimme. And
no, it certainly is not, because some people would argue that Pacquiao hasn't beaten Marquez.
There you go. That's an argument.
Right.
That's a real argument too.
Well, it should be interesting, Doug, but we will have you back on soon, because it seems like in boxing there's always stuff to talk about. I know there's a big card coming up at the Barclays pretty soon up there in Brooklyn, and a fight that we're both looking forward to.
And that's going to be huge.
Yeah,
that's going to be huge. I'm going to predict right now. I don't know how many seats that place holds. I think the maximum it could probably be configured for boxing is about 20,000, which is awesome. But I think it does capacity. I tell you what, whatever they configure that arena for in Brooklyn, they're going to sell it out for this event, because New York fans they're huge. They're great fight fans. And this is a card that has their locals on it, and it just has other notable fighters from other areas, some nearby, like Garcia from Philadelphia, and some who are not from nearby, but they're tremendous fighters, like a Mexican legend like Eric Morales.
Right.
And people are going to want to see him, and they're going to see a stacked card. They're going to want to come out and support a bona fide quadruple header.
Right.
And I guarantee you, I'm telling you right now, that building is going to be packed. And if that's going to be packed, it's going to be live. Because when fight fans come out in New York, they bring a vibe that's all their own, and it's a real festive environment. So I'm looking forward to that.
And I'm pumped for Alvarado and Rios as well, which is coming up. So we got a lot to talk about next time, Doug. As always, appreciate it.
That's great. Yeah, that's October 13. And
I'm already
going to
be pumped up for that. I mean, I'm
going to be ringside to that one.
Well, I wish I could just somehow make myself real skinny, or Rick Moranis could shrink me like he shrunk his kids, and I could just sit there and watch it too, because that's going to be a great one. But Doug, we will do this again very soon, and as always, we appreciate the time.
Anytime, Bob.